This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by promoter Frank Warren here in Saudi Arabia. Frank, this is becoming a regular occurrence for us. How are you?
I'm good. What about you, Andy?
I'm very well, thank you. I know it's been a busy morning of media, so we'll obviously try and get through as much of this as quickly as we can. But before we come on to obviously with a Shakur talk, let's start off with your fighters. Some big nights ahead on Saturday night. But that co-main, Daniel Dubois, Parker. I just want a word, Frank, on Daniel's sort of rise from the doubters of the Joe Joyce defeat, everything that happened in the Alexander Usyk fight, this run of form he's been on, and this new kind of resurgence in his career. Did you ever truly believe that you'd currently hold someone in Daniel who is at the top of a division?
Yep. That's why we invested in him.
What gave you the confidence, despite those defeats, that
Because
you
I
could see
think,
him reaching this point?
Because first of all, the fight he had against Joe Joyce, he was judges. If he had not got sustained that injury, he was ahead on the cards, and had it gone the distance, and Joe hadn't stopped him, he would have got the decision. But he had 4 fractures in his orbital eye socket, and he had a semi-detached retina. And had he carried on and it had detached, that would have been the end of his career. And you can imagine the pain getting hit there, because the nerves and the fractures. And he did the right thing. Billy Joe Saunders, same thing happened to him. And it's a dangerous, dangerous injury. You know, who wants to lose your sight? I mean, that's an awful thing to be done. And the fight with Usyk, I mean, it's been well documented, my opinion of that, and what happened in that round, whether it was a low blow or not, and the 4-minute break in between. And that was the making of him. But no heavyweight, and I can't think of too many fighters in the top 10 of any division, have had the quality of opposition he's had in the last, 18 months? It's 5 fights, all world-class fighters. 2 former world champions, 4 undefeated fighters, and one, the best fighter, voted the best heavyweight of the 21st century. That's what he's had. That's what he's been in the ring with. Or he will be in with one on Saturday. Bring that up. And in those last 4 fights, he was the underdog in all of them, according to the bookmakers, most of the reporters and the fans.
He goes into Saturday as the favourite, though, Frank. But
First time he's going in as a favourite, yeah.
How difficult of a test lies ahead with Parker, who's also been on a tremendous run of form himself.
He's absolutely right. Look, he's a world champion. If you're number one and you're the world, you're number one, which he is in the IBF. He's the world champion. Their world champion. Usyk's obviously considered to be the best, quite rightly so. So he's now number 2 in the world. If he's better than the others, he's got to beat these guys. You're there for a reason. And we got confidence in him. That's why we put him in the fights we put him in. And he's paid back the confidence we had in bucket loads. I mean, those last 3 fights, he'd done a job on the 3 of them. I mean, done a job on them as well. All of them.
That AJ fight in particular, that was like remember you were there moment, because I remember the kind of a shock in the stadium. Not people believing that Daniel couldn't do it, but it was just the fashion of how dominant he was.
That is exactly right. And remember, and I don't care what anyone says, he went into the Lions' Den. The majority of that crowd there, probably 90-odd% of them, were, quite rightly so, AJ fans for all the big nights that he's given the British fans over the years. And he went in there and, he obviously did what he did and won the fans over. But this is his time now. He's 27 years of age. He's in with a guy, former world champion in Joe, who's very, very confident. He looks in great nick. He's trained hard for it. Andy's a very good trainer, Andy Lee, as Don Charles is. They both believe in their charges. And I think we're going to get something special on the night. I really do. Even if it's short and sweet, it'll be special.
Alexander Usyk's obviously confirmed that for him, he maybe sees 2 more fights in his career, and one of those he wants to be the winner of Saturday's fight between Daniel and Joseph.
That's what we want.
That would be some story for Daniel if he could go that one step further in a rematch with Alexander.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one we would really like. If it's Daniel, which obviously I'll lean to Daniel, him and Usyk would be something special. It would be something special. But to get there, we've got to just keep our mind and focus on, especially Daniel's got to keep that way, on Saturday night. You can't, Joe Parker's not coming to make up the numbers. He's coming to win that belt.
Have you had to have that discussion with Daniel Hall? Obviously, a few people suggesting he might have overlooked him slightly.
No,
for
he's
all
not
the talk
over.
of
I
Usyk.
promise you, he hasn't overlooked anybody, and no one around him would let him do that.
Frank, onto another fight of yours, Sheeraz, his first crack at World Honours, Carlos Adames, the confidence again. What makes you so sure this is Hamza's crowning night?
Look, I believe in him. I'm not saying I'm so sure because he's in with a very, very good fighter, very, very good professional fighter. But I believe in him. He's done everything that's been asked of him. He's been in with some really good opponents, and he's done it the hard way. He's not come in for a blaze of glory from an amateur career. He's done it and worked his way up from small halls, the York halls of this world, to get to where he's at. And for me, has become a really, really competent, accomplished boxer, fighter. He's great in the ring. He's great to watch. He's exciting to watch. And outside the ring, he's a fantastic ambassador for our sport, as well for the Riyadh season as he is now.
He never seems to be fazed by anything, Frank. Even in those few tough moments he might have had in his career in the ring, he always comes through and proves those doubters wrong. How key is that mentality of not becoming overawed by the occasion going to be on Saturday with Carlos Adames?
No, he's got great composure. He's got great. He doesn't show anything. I mean, he's very, very mature in his mind, and he's a very intelligent and articulate person, and he's a great ambassador, as I've said, for modern Britain, in my opinion. And I just feel that he seems to cope with these things. You can't get under his skin. I've never seen him get aggravated or anything. He's got this really good way about him, calmness about him in the ring as well. Even when in that fight he had, what's his name? No, the one where he got clipped a couple of times. Emma Williams, who's a very good fighter, and I made him our captain for that fight. I fancied him, but that was a tough fight for him. And he got clipped a couple of times, and he handled it really well. His response, the way he went to Plan B and got himself back in the fight and done the job. And I was very, very, really, really satisfied with his performance in that fight.
One more with Hamza, Frank, and I'm now going to talk 2 years into the future. We've seen Canelo. They signed a 4-fight deal.
Yeah.
And I know in the past that there was, the team reached out to try and make a potential Hamza-Sheeraz fight. In 2 years' time, if Hamza's dominated that middleweight scene, do you think it's possible or feasible Hamza could be the fourth of a 4-fight deal with Canelo?
If he comes through this fight, yes.
Do you think it could be sooner than the fourth of that 4-fight then?
These next 2 fights are planned out, aren't they? Scully, and then he's got Crawford. But third fight, if he comes through, yeah.
One more on this card, Frank. Buatsi Smith.
Yeah.
First, I want to get your thoughts on that fight. What do you make of it before I link in?
It's a really good fight. It's a main event in its own right. Callum's a former world champion. Josh has done brilliantly well. I love the fight. Again, I love it. I'm going to sit there and watch it and enjoy it. I've got a link towards Josh. I think he's been busier, and I think he's the form fighter.
Is Josh the one you'd like to see? Obviously now the reconciliation with Anthony as well, all this talk of whether we'll see...
Well, I'd love to see that fight. We tried to make that time and time again, you know that.
Speaking to Anthony, he said he wants that next, and spoke to both Josh and Callum. They've both said they're adamant they want that fight as well.
Well, whoever wins. I mean, at the end of the day, whoever wins, it's a fight to be made, isn't it? They're good fights. Even if it depends how you lose as well. The loser to fight the winner of the next fight. There's so many combinations there that you can make. It's not, as I keep saying, it's not the end of the world. It's how you lose. You'd be in a very close fight. If you get absolutely destroyed, then that's a different thing. But that division's a really good division. There's a load of other guys just jostling around who are coming through as well. We're going to give them who are going to get themselves into those big fights as well with them.
Do you have any update on Willy Hutchinson on that note? Obviously, had to pull out that Zach Parker.
No, it's a great shame. He's, unfortunately, he's injured, and we'll obviously keep an eye on him. And once he's ready to come again, we'll get him out.
I also obviously have to ask you, Frank, about that elephant in the room. Shakur Stevenson not fighting Kid Austin or Floyd Schofield come Saturday night. What can you tell me about him? The board opting to pull him out of the fight.
Well, the board pulled him out of the fight because they don't think he should be in the ring. He's not fit enough to be in the ring. And somebody showed me a photograph of him lying in a hospital bed with all tubes up his nose. So how can he be fighting? It's crazy. You can't let that happen. And the board of control have done the right thing. They're there to protect the fighter and his best interest and the sport's best interest. And that's the end of it. Doesn't matter what his dad says and all that, whatever. 1 minute his dad says this and that. The fact of the matter is you only have to look at that photograph. And if anybody thinks he should be allowed to box, they got something wrong with him.
We've obviously seen the reports of Josh Padley potentially being the man to get that fight. You know him as well as everybody.
There's discussions going on at the moment who the replacement will be, and that's being made in due course.
How quickly of a time frame? Last one.
Well, it's got to be quick because obviously they've got to have a check weight.
Just very quickly, just to wrap this up, Moses Itauma.
Yeah.
What's the latest? Will we see the Charles Martin fight after Charles called him out?
We will be making an announcement very, very soon. I was hoping actually to do it this week, probably next week.
And also, I spoke to Eddie Hearn last week at Catra Bobos. He said a lot of meetings to take place with yourself, Tokel Sheikh, Spencer, everybody involved with these shows this week to start announcing an abundance of upcoming events. One of those being Alcatraz.
Yeah.
What can you tell me, Frank? Of those meetings
I'll tell you, we had a very late one last night. We've got more coming up the rest of the week.
Well, Frank, I can't prod and probe too much, but I appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to me.
Pleasure, Andy.
Perfect.
God bless. Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you, Frank.